Hey, it's Carl from artofshred.com. Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a 2019 Squier Affinity Stratocaster in race green. It's kind of a metallic, sparkly green. I really like this color. I don't think the new ones have this option anymore. Just a standard Squier Affinity Strat. The reason I bought it, and I bought it used for 80 bucks, is I wanted to review one of these for the channel, but I didn't want to buy one new because they just don't have a lot of resale value. You can find one used pretty much daily for under 150 bucks. And really, you can find them for around 100 pretty often. It's not worth buying a new one for me because I need to resell these guitars to fund more reviews, and to buy an Affinity and then lose over 100 bucks on it is just not really the smartest choice. The guitars don't change much year to year. Yeah, certain things change, sometimes some hardware type of things change, colors change, but in general, it's a standard Squier Affinity Strat. So buying a used one was kind of my compromise. I already generally know what Affinities are like. This way I can have an actual formal review of one. It actually has on the headstock, I'll show you a close-up, on the headstock it has a used stamp, which means it was a factory B stock. I can't tell why it's a B stock. There's no finish flaws that I can see. There's no like divots or anything. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with this guitar beyond the fact that it does have some fret spread, some sharp frets. Yeah, like that one's sticking out. There's some sharp frets. Easy fixes. We'll do that in the setup. It sounds good, plays well, plays like I would expect an Affinity Strat to play and sound like. For 80 bucks for an Affinity, I think this was a pretty sweet deal. As far as the guitar, it's crafted, they say, in Indonesia. 21 frets, humbucker, single coil, 5-way switch, you know, typical Strat stuff. Of course it's Affinity, so it's got the trem system, 25.5-inch scale length. Again, typical Strat style as far as all of that goes. If you've watched previous videos, you know how I feel about bullets and Affinities. Generally, I think Affinities more so than bullets, so let's just talk about Affinities since this is an Affinity. Generally, they are pretty decent. As far as what's kind of cheaper on them, it's all the typical stuff, right? It's the hardware. Cheap tuners, cheaper pickups, you know, the trim system, saddles, all of that stuff is not super high quality, but it's not total garbage. And it is sometimes, if you're buying online, one of these can be a crapshoot. That's just the way it goes with cheaper guitars. What do I mean by crapshoot? Well, when you're buying these cheap guitars online, they're generally not inspected or set up. So it's just, you have a slightly bigger chance of getting a guitar with like sharp frets, a dirty fretboard, oxidized frets, stuff like that. If you've watched previous videos, you've seen some of the problems with cheaper guitars, and that's just how it is. With the Affinities, it's generally, it seems to be a little bit better, but it's not 100%. So far, what I've played with it, I like it, just like any Affinity Strat I've put my hands on before. Decent guitars. So what we're gonna do is do the setup, clean up the fretboard. I haven't checked for high frets yet, so we'll see if we need to do anything there. Well, let's get to the good stuff. get into it. So I actually spent a little more time on the setup than I originally planned. I spent about 3 hours on the setup of this guitar, and I didn't really need to, but I did some extra things to make this thing play really, really well. I rounded over all of the fret ends, polished the frets. Well, first off, there were a few high frets, so I leveled all the frets. Then I polished them, set the action, cleaned the fretboard with lemon oil, intonation, all that good stuff. It took me about, like I said, it took me about 3 hours to set up this guitar. But check out the rolled frets. Looks nice, right? And it plays, honestly, it plays like a Strat that did not cost $80. Let's talk about how I tuned this guitar. So I set it up for E flat tuning, half step down. A lot of people say it just sounds better, and I don't know if that's become a self-fulfilling prophecy because Jimi Hendrix, Kurt Cobain, Stevie Ray Vaughan, basically any known Strat player tunes their guitar to E flat. And I'll link to a couple videos from Electric Flamingo and Rhett Shull below where they talk about the E flat tuning a little bit more in depth. That said, like I said in the introduction, it already played okay. It had a few sharp frets and whatnot, but it already played and sounded okay. It sounded and played like I would expect a Squier Affinity. A few things that I want to point out. My favorite, I'm really surprised by these pickups because I don't remember really liking Affinity pickups, but the neck pickup I thought sounds really nice, really cool. And also the humbucker, totally decent. It's a nice surprise. So decent pickups. It's the type of thing where if I wanted to keep this for sure long term, I'd swap the pickups. But really, for a beginner, really good. Now that said, this guitar nowadays costs around $300, between like $260 and $300, depending if you find it on sale or whatever. So brand new, it's about as expensive as the Yamaha Pacifica PAC 112V, which I reviewed that on this channel before, and I like that guitar better than the Affinity, but it's really kind of close. Like I said in the introduction, these are not bad, but I personally like the Yamaha better. I think the quality control on Yamaha is better. If you really want a Strat, if you really want, that brand name, I guess, even though this is Squier by Fender, then no issues. I think these are decent. That said, again, because the resale value on these is so bad, I really think you should buy a used one. And if you want some tips on how to buy used guitars, there's a video that I made linked below. You can, I bought this one for $80. I talked the guy down, he wanted 120, but even 120, totally decent for one of these. So that's what we're dealing with. Totally decent beginner's guitar. I think it's a decent, if you just want a Strat as like a second guitar, maybe you don't have a Strat or something like that, I like it. You heard in the sound demo, sounds good. I do want to point out something that I had a discussion with somebody about this some time ago, that a lot of sound is, with the player. Like if somebody can play guitar okay, it's probably going to sound okay. And if somebody doesn't know how to play at all, it's going to sound like a great guitar is going to sound bad, right? That's all kind of obvious. So, I'm not the best guitar player, but I know how to play. So even a crappy guitar is going to sound okay. Not saying this is crappy, but even a crappy guitar is going to sound okay from somebody who knows how to play it. But I really do like the way this guitar sounds. And now, once I've set it up like this, I almost don't want to get rid of it because the amount of time I put into it and how nice it is now, I'm not going to be able to sell it for anything like how it plays. I like it. Have I said that before? I think I've said it already. Let's do one final little bit of outro sound demo, and until next time.